Good morning. I'd like to call the August 5th morning session of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order and welcome all of you here. We have another boardroom full. Good to see everyone here. Also, welcome to those who are watching on our live stream on our YouTube channel. As is customary, we will open with an invocation, be led by Commissioner Stevens this morning, and then we will have the pledge led by Vietnam Veterans of America post 9/90. So with that, please stand if you so choose during the invocation.
Dear Lord, we gather today with hearts full of gratitude for the opportunity to serve and lead our community. We ask for your wisdom to guide our decisions, clarity to address the needs before us, and unity to work together in harmony. May our actions reflect justice, compassion, and a commitment to the well-being of all the people we serve. Grant us the strength and integrity to fulfill our duties with honor. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Face the flag. Group, catch, hut, present, horn. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, horn. Left, pace. Forward, march.
Mr. Chairman, these are all combat veterans.
All right, please be seated. I did want to make mention of the board's 6 priorities that we typically start each meeting with recognizing those. We have several of which will be on the agenda this morning, and those 6 priorities are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and our county employees. With that, we'll move on to the first item of the agenda, which is approval and discussion of today's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that it be approved as presented.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Agenda is approved. The next item is the consent agenda, and we have 6 items today for that. We have approval of our June 24th minutes. We have approved funding for the Antioch Fire Department, proclamation for Farmers Market Week, which is August the 4th through the 10th. And then we have some budget revisions for the health department, as well as the jail, library, and again, the sheriff's office. We also have appointments to the Hospital Authority Board of Commissioners, and we have David Mills and Dr. Marilyn Pearson who has applied, and that will come back to us once the hospital board has made their recommendation. We also have appointment to the Johnston County Board of Health, and that's a reappointment of Tim Little. And we have Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, and we have 2 there, Erica Brown and Bobby Foreman. And finally, we have our tax releases and refunds from June the 16th through July the 15th. So any of those need to be withdrawn for further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have public comments, and we do have 3 who had signed up, and I'm going to call Colonel Rudy Baker forward to be our first person for public comments.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'd like to take just about 3 minutes and share some information with you. First off, on myself. About a month ago, I went down to see my wife, who's in rehab, been there 444 days, still can't walk. And I fell at the house trying to get to bed. Got in bed. Next day, I drove down here, and as I walked in her room, I collapsed again. COVID. Never been hit like that before in my life. But they got me in the hospital 6 days. They did a great job in the hospital. Right? But now I want to share the other side of that story with my wife. I am disgusted with our health care as it is now. If you want to go to the hospital, you got to go through the ER. ER turns around and says you don't meet criteria. After wearing out Clayton and Smithfield both, with my wife, she was shaking like a leaf in a thunderstorm. Nobody could figure out what it is. They still haven't today figured out what's going on. But anyhow, the last time we took her into ER in Smithfield, she was shaking so bad and so weak, they wouldn't let her get in a wheelchair and get in my car to go home. They took a medical transport, took her home, put her in her recliner, and left. After watching 2 days of her shaking and hurting, I said, something's got to give. So I called 911, got an ambulance, and I told the EMS guy, by the way, EMS did a great job every time they were called. But I said, I want to go to Duke. I'd already been to everybody else, Wake and UNC. And he said, we can't take you to Duke unless it's cancer or it's heart related. I said, okay. He said, we can take you to Duke Raleigh. Okay, Duke Raleigh. Spent 5 days there. They ran RMIs, whatever else they had to run. At the end of the 5th day, one doctor wanted to keep her and do something else with it, but he got overruled. Sent us to rehab at Smithfield Manor. And they're doing a great job, but she still can't walk. Right? So I just want to make you aware of what's going on. If UNC was to take over all our small hospitals, they did damn well should staff them. You can't get a neurologist appointment. I tried to get one. I go visiting 2 of the places in Raleigh by calling. The earliest one I could get is 3rd of January. When we got into rehab, they finally got us one for the 28th of this month to go see a neurologist. And we got 2 neurologists in Johnston County. One of them went to India for the summer. All right, so that tells you where we're at. And I know there's not much you can do about it. It's just as bad in Wake County as it is here. But somebody needs to get a hold of this thing and tell the president of UNC, if you want to take over our hospitals, fine. I'll read all these good articles, but I don't believe a damn one of them after what I've seen for the last 40-some days. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, next up, we will have our Human Resources Director, Paulette Williams, and recognize some recently retiring employees.
Mr. Chairman and the Board of Commissioners, today I'm here to recognize 3 of our retirees that we've had recently. The first be it on July 1st, we had Miss Mary Ann Lucas retire from DSS. Sadly, Miss Lucas is not able to be present with us, but her family is here to be before you all, and we have Aaron as well as Nicole. You all want to come up? Sure, if you will take a picture with our Board of Commissioners.
All right, you want to do that now? Yeah.
Sorry.
Here, let me just get a couple. All right. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Please pass on that we thank you for their service and to the citizens of the county and Johnston County. We appreciate you.
Okay, and then our other 2 retirees are effective September the 1st. We have Mr. Daniel Gagney with the Emergency Services or EMS Division, and then we also have Monique Holder also with the Department of Social Services, neither which could be present today.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Kevin Hubbard, who's coming in the back door there to talk to us about a grant for a generator for JCATS and also give us a little update on the weather. And he's brought Sandy Wood with him as well, so there we go.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Board. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm actually going to let Sandy go first and discuss the grant, and then I'll follow up behind her with the weather.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Previously, we asked for permission to apply for a grant to purchase a generator for community and senior services. We did get approval of that, and we're asking that you guys accept that so that we can get busy getting a generator put in. This is a site that we can use as shelter operations and also as a cooling and warming station. The amount of the grant is $200,000, and any excess to have the generator put in place will be provided for by community and senior services.
Fantastic.
It was a capacity building grant. It was competitive between 100 counties.
Wow.
And
Wow.
we got the full amount. That was our limit, so
Good job.
Great job.
thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
So is that something we need to vote on now? It would have been consent agenda then? Okay, good deal.
Fantastic.
We're good.
Yep, sounds like we're good.
Thank you.
I will say, Sandy and her team did a phenomenal job. That's actually the second grant this year that they've got for emergency management. So
That's awesome.
they do a great
Fantastic.
job finding money for us as a county, and we appreciate everything they do.
That is great.
So give you an update on Hurricane Debbie. It did become a hurricane last night over Florida. It has made landfall over Florida. It is expected to move across Florida, come back in the Atlantic to some degree, and sit. So it is a very complicated forecast for North Carolina, specifically Johnston County. We seem to always be in the spot that there's potential, and we're in that spot for this as well. So we will know more as the week goes on. Emergency services, our fire marshal division, EMS division, the EM division are already making prep for the storm if we have to do anything for as far as shelters and response. We'll be doing briefings starting tomorrow internally, and we'll be inviting our partners as well once we have more information from the Weather Service. So be glad to answer any questions.
All right, anyone have any questions for Mr. Hubbard?
I'll just make a comment, Mr. Chairman, if I could. It's a fascinating operation when you see emergency services go to work in the face of a pending storm or any type of disaster. It really is, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. And so I just want to thank y'all for the work that you do, because your days will get really long for the next week or so, and even afterwards, if we have flooding or anything post-storm. So thank you for your preparedness and looking after the citizens of Johnston County. They're in good hands. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate you.
Thank you. We couldn't do it without y'all. We certainly don't want to have to deal with this storm, but being in a new public safety center, we are in a much better position to deal with it now than we have been. Thank you.
And not only does she get well on grants, she does great as an emergency management chief.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, awesome. Thank y'all.
Thank
Mr.
y'all.
Hubbard, quick
Thanks,
question. For the citizens of the county, where's the best place to get updates and information from emergency services for those that may need them?
They can follow our social media accounts, and we also tag our social media to the county website as well.
Perfect.
And once we start releasing media updates, they'll be able to follow that on local media.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep, of course. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda today? All right, Madam Clerk, do we get any emails? Okay. All right, we will move on to item number 4, which is a child support proclamation for Child Support Awareness Month, which is August. And we have Marie Mobley here to present, and I've asked Commissioner Harris to actually read the proclamation.
Yeah, sure, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I am one of your new county attorneys under Ms. Slusser, so it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak this morning to address you in consideration of a proclamation to recognize August as Child Support Awareness Month here in Johnston County. One of our primary goals in my office is to represent Johnston County in advising and representing your child support enforcement agency. I have several members from the office here to observe today's meeting. We're grateful to be here. From childhood, we are taught that children are an inheritance. As parents, grandparents, and as citizens of a multi-generational community, we know that children are our greatest treasure and are central to the future of our community. One of the most important responsibilities of a parent is to financially provide for the needs of his or her children. The mission of the Johnston County Child Support Enforcement Office is to help children obtain financial support to which they are entitled. To accomplish this mission, our county's office has 12 child support agents, 3 who establish those obligations, 8 who enforce them, and 2 who handle obligations sending or receiving interstate child support cases when a parent is across state lines. In the fiscal year 23-24, your agency collected over $15 million in child support on around 5,400 child support cases. Yet, we still have unpaid support and approximately 150 active orders for arrest issued in Johnston County to enforce noncompliance of support obligations. For various reasons, parents sometimes fall behind in their child support payments, and when this happens, it's ultimately the children who suffer. Understanding this, our agency is promoting an amnesty project August 5th through August 9th of this year. You may have seen that advertised. This project provides an opportunity for those with outstanding Johnston County child support warrants to meet with their child support agent, to work toward negotiating a payment to have their warrant recalled without the risk of arrest, and hopefully to have a fresh start and get back on track. We also hope it encourages continued communication and cooperation between case participants and the agency. We've already had one payment made, I was told this morning by Ms. Wiggins. These dates were carefully selected in an effort to provide assistance to custodial parents and caretakers of children right here with school returning so that they might have funds to be able to buy school clothes and school supplies. And it's also to coincide with National Child Support Enforcement Month, which is designated as August. We encourage all eligible individuals to take advantage of this opportunity to engage with child support agents to try to get back into compliance and to work toward a positive resolution. Having said that, on behalf of our agency, I respectfully request the board adopt the proclamation, and I stand ready for any questions you might have.
Is there any questions for Ms. Mobley before
I
Commissioner
have one,
Harris?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I looked at the amnesty, but I want to make sure I understood it right. There was no forgiveness of debt in there, was there?
No, sir.
Just a recasting of?
That's correct.
Right, great, thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions? All right, Mr. Chairman Harris?
All right. The Child Support Awareness Month, August 2024. Whereas children are entitled to financial support from their parents, and whereas children who do not receive adequate financial and emotional support from their parents may experience greater difficulty in becoming happy, healthy, and productive residents. And whereas Johnston County applauds the parents who support their children to make the child support payments consistently to take care of them. And whereas many concerned and dedicated judges, attorneys, clerks of court, law enforcement personnel, and child support professionals work to establish and enforce child support orders for Johnston County's children, one of our most vital resources. And whereas it is important to increase public awareness, the child support program through outreach and education to reinforce that all parents must take responsibility for the financial, emotional, and physical support of their children. Now, therefore, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim August 2024 as Child Support Awareness Month in Johnston County, and encourages all citizens to work together to make our children's future stable and bright. Adopted this 5th day of August 2024. Mr. Chairman, I'll enter that as a form of a motion.
I second it.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of adopting the proclamation, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Proclamation is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you
And I
so
would
much.
say, so the staff that's here, if they would stand, I think we got the back row covered, maybe a little more than the back row, so if you stand so we can see. There we go.
Thank you for your
All
work.
right, yeah, thank you.
Your
Thank you
service.
for what you do.
Wonderful bunch.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
Give them a second to. All right, so the next item on the agenda is an update on our comprehensive transportation plan, and I will call on Mr. Will Letchworth with McAdams to present that to us.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Thank you for having me. I'll give you a brief update on where we're at with the ongoing comprehensive transportation plan. I'll start with our vision for the plan that was developed by the project working group and the stakeholder committee. which I think is a very good vision for the county, is to connect the residents of Johnston County through safe and efficient multimodal travel options to destinations within Johnston County and the region while enhancing economic vitality. And you'll see why that's important in just a minute when I talk about how we've gone about the comprehensive transportation plan process. So I want to give you a little bit of an overview of what we've been doing over the past several months for sure, to give you a sense of how the cake is baked, if you will. I know there's a lot of discussion about that in the development of the land use plan, so I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how we're doing that on the comprehensive transportation plan. So we start with quite a bit of data. There's a lot of data out there, whether it be existing traffic volumes that are collected by NCDOT, where we grow those to a future year volume. We have model volumes from the Triangle Regional Travel Demand Model, which is managed by NC State, that projects travel volumes all the way down to I-95. We have 5 years worth of crash data from NCDOT. We obviously have subdivision approvals from the county, major economic development areas from CRIS and the Chambers of Commerce, and then a lot of environmental and community features. So we take a lot of data and sort of establish a baseline of where we're at and where we're going from a travel standpoint, from a development standpoint. Then we overlay on top of that a lot of plans. There's a whole lot of planning that has been done in the county, whether it be by the municipalities, whether it be by the capital area MPO and their Southeast area study, whether it be projects that are included in their metropolitan transportation plan. Then there's other various plans that have happened throughout the county, such as East Coast Greenway, Mountains to Sea Trail. And then, of course, there are projects in the NCDOT program, whether they be funded, under construction, or future year projects that we overlay across top of all of that data. And then we look across that with several different lenses to basically say how does the plans that are in place now relate to what we're seeing in terms of future travel volumes, and how does it address the things in the vision and from what we hear from the public. So we'll start with those public survey responses. I'll talk in a minute about the response we've gotten to the survey and a few of the comments and themes from that. But we certainly look through those comments and say, how do these plans that are in place now address those? Obviously, we get a lot of data from the public on problem areas. It's things that don't always show up in data, whether it be a road that maybe floods a lot or areas where we've got poor sight distance. You may see some of that in the crash data, but you don't always. So we've relied very heavily on the public to tell us where the problems are. Of course, we have the comprehensive land use plan. It's important that that is included on the plan side as well, but also really how does the existing plans, how do they address, support, and promote what we've said we want to be from a county standpoint from land use. And then, of course, we refer back to the vision. Again, of course, I mentioned safety, looking at the crash data. It's where the areas of high crash volumes that we can solve through infrastructure improvements. How do we move efficiently around the county? How do we bypass areas of congestion, future congestion? How do we fix areas of future congestion? Obviously, we look from a multimodal standpoint. We are looking across all modes, transit, rail, ped, bike, of course, personal vehicles. And then how do we move within the county? We said that was a very important component of the transportation plan. Looking to make sure we're connecting places within the county. We're connecting places within the region. We're very blessed to have great interstate access in the county and immediately adjacent to the county. Are we able to get people to those interstates? And then, of course, again, relying on a lot of great data that Chris has provided us, how are we connecting to those areas where we have a lot of economic activity happening, whether it be life sciences sector near Clayton, whether it be Eastfield and Smithfield, whether it be the Copper District, all the great things that are happening in the county, making sure we're getting people there. And of course, we're going to identify gaps through this process. The existing plans do a really great job, but there's a lot of other things that need to happen. Some things in those plans that when you start comparing them to each other, they don't necessarily make sense, so we want to be consistent. Some things that just aren't included. Again, we get a lot of that data from the public of little areas that need to be fixed and things that need to happen. And of course, the comprehensive land use plan being relatively new, there's things that are needed from that standpoint that we want to make sure that we address in our recommendations. So then to talk a bit about public engagement. We did have a public meeting on June 4th at JCC. We'll have another meeting coming up in about the September time frame. We also released a survey. We had 161 participants in that and 435 comments. honestly, that's not quite good enough. We want to do a little bit better than that. So we're going to leave that survey open, and we're going to go through another round of really promoting that survey. For a county of our size, I think we should see a little bit more participation than that. I don't think it's for lack of trying. I think we just need to try some more. So you'll see that being promoted through the county's social media. You may see some flyers around. If you go to JCC, you'll certainly see some there. So we're going to have another push to promote that survey again, because it is so important that we get that information from the public on where some of those issues are. A few themes that came out: safety is the #1 priority. We heard that time and time again. #1 concern, making sure we have a safe roadway network. Single occupancy vehicles and roadway infrastructure are still the current priority. That's as you would expect in a primarily rural county. But bike and ped facilities are becoming more and more. We see this statewide. We see this nationally. We're seeing it in Johnston County too. A lot of interesting, good bike ped facilities, primarily greenways. I think people in Johnston County are looking for those to be off the roadway network, although there are some locations and situations in the county, particularly in some of our more suburban areas, where those facilities make sense to be on the roadways, but a lot of interesting greenways. And of course, we got the Comprehensive Greenway Master Plan kicking off here soon that is going to address that in significantly more detail. From a transit standpoint, not a lot of transit in the county right now. So, feedback there has been a little bit limited. We feel like the lack of availability of transit is sort of hindering users' perception of it and usage. But there's more transit coming in the county. There are more areas to connect. So we expect that would change over time. But again, in case you're interested in the transit element, we are going to have some recommendations for that for sure. And the folks at JCATS have been great on being a very active participant in our working group. And again, as I mentioned, good feedback on the problem areas, but we want more. So we're going to leave this survey open and go through another push there. And then, so what has that resulted in? It's resulted in a series of recommendations. We're still working on those, but we've presented and provided some great static maps. And then we also have an online web view map where you can dive into any of the recommendations, see what it is, see where it came from. Was it from another plan? Was it a newly developed element? See what it's meant to address. And that has been provided to our working group. We'll be providing that to the stakeholders here soon for review. And so we'll continuously refine that. And then, as I mentioned, another public meeting coming up in around about the September timeframe. At that meeting, we'll be presenting the recommendations and getting public feedback specifically on those recommendations. So we are on track to finish the plan by the end of the year. Again, a lot of great input from staff. Can't say enough great things about the staff here. And, from various departments across the county that have done a really great job. Thank you, Mr. Godman. Thank you, Mr. Lauder, for participating in our stakeholder group. Great participation from the municipalities as well. I should have probably mentioned in that plan section, a lot of planning's happened at the municipal level that we're overlaying here too, and we're connecting to those plans and supporting those plans. But, really great input. We just want to get a little bit more from the public, and I think we'll end up with a plan that's really, really useful and helpful for the county. So, again, thank you for your support. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
I have one, Will. You mentioned about 400-plus comments
Yes, sir.
from public. Were there a lot of meaningful information or just sharing frustrations?
There was a lot of meaningful information. I think folks did a really good job of outlining their priorities, a really good job of pointing out some key problem areas. I was pleased with the feedback that we got.
Good.
I just want a little bit more of it,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Good.
I'd like to offer some feedback, since you've asked.
Yes, sir. Please do.
I had the opportunity to serve on the Land Use Steering Committee.
Yes, sir.
And traffic concerns and the safety of traveling on our rural roads was a big issue in that process. And I hope that it will continue to be in the forefront of this study. And I'm seeing situations, for example, out on 70 Business between Clayton and Smithfield, with Amazon and ALA, the charter school out there. I'm not sure how that planning was done, but at Amazon, there's trailers that are actually backing out onto Highway 70
Sure.
and blocking one lane of traffic, waiting in a queue to get in there into the facility. I would thought something like that would have been fully considered as part of the planning review process. ALA, we got the same situation there. This morning, traffic was backed all the way through the Smith Creek Light intersection to the airport, blocking lane of traffic to get into it. You know, I want to see planning processes that take these things in consideration and ensure that we are not creating unsafe conditions on our roadway with these development projects.
Yes, sir.
That's more of a commentary than anything else. During the land use process, one thing that was really of a concern is that moving farm equipment on road has become extremely hazardous in this county.
Yes, sir.
Farmers are increasingly being pushed out of the western side of the county. They're having to look at their farming land is more diversified, it's spread out. Farm equipment is getting bigger and bigger because you got to go big in order to be profitable in farming.
Yes, sir.
And you've got to move it up and down these small 2-lane highways. And that is continuing to raise safety concerns. So my commentary is I hope safety is going to be at the forefront of what we look at in this transportation plan.
Absolutely, 100%. A couple specific comments. Well, I'll start with the last one relative to safety. One of the key elements of data that we do have is the roadway width on all the state-maintained roadways, and that's something that we're looking really hard at. It might not be a thing that shows up in the crash data. There may not be a lot of crashes because of that, but we've got a lot of rural 2-lane roadways where a few more feet of shoulders on either side of the road, a few more feet of lane width would make a heck of a lot of difference.
Absolutely.
Particularly when you start talking about farm equipment.
Farm market roads.
Absolutely.
If you don't have a shoulder there to pull over, you can't let traffic that's backed up behind you get around.
You got it.
You know, farmers clearly want to do. They don't want to be out there having people waving the middle finger wave at them and yelling at them because they're blocking up in traffic.
Yep.
But they also want to be able to get off the road when you've got wide vehicles coming forward to them.
Yes, sir. So that's one of those items where you'll see recommendations in the plan for widening, but it's not necessarily widening to a 3-lane or a 4-lane. It's simply widening just to get a few more feet. So we've got a lot of that. Relative to your first comment, I'll take a look at both of those situations specifically and see if there's any recommendations in the CTP that need to be related to that. But part of this is also going to be a review of our planning processes and development regulations so that we can do our best to avoid situations like that again in the future. We do, of course, have a TIA ordinance, but also as part of the comprehensive transportation plan, outputs, well, let's say process in the future will be to consider what is in the comprehensive transportation plan. So when developments, particularly larger developments, come in, they will be beholden to what is in the plan, and we will be discussing as a working group and stakeholders, is that a reservation of right-of-way? Is that construction of half of the typical section? There's various ways to attack that problem, but again, getting back toward your issue of some of these larger developments and their impact, the CTP will be an amazing tool for us to be able to use to make sure that infrastructure gets in place.
Well, the examples I gave to you are obviously in the Smithfield ETJ, so I'm not sure if the review of that process, I presume, would have deferred to Smithfield.
Typically would have, yes, sir.
But in terms of this process we're doing here, how much influence will this plan have in terms of what these municipalities may do in terms of approving these types of projects?
They will not have a lot of influence from the municipality standpoint. They stand on their own, they have their own approval processes, and they have their own plans. What we're trying to do from the CTP is make sure that those are consistent as we move into the county, that the county's plan dovetails with what they're doing. And then we also obviously have a lot of areas where you may have a gap in the ETJ, if you will. You're sort of in Smithfield, then you go out of Smithfield, then you go back in at Smithfield, so that little section in between, making sure everything is planned consistently. But, you know, we've had a lot of communications with the municipalities in the county as part of this process. And so making sure that they understand where the county's coming from and what the county's looking for from a transportation standpoint, and then it all meshes well together. But ultimately, yes, they're the approval authority for anything that happens with it.
Well, they have the benefit, or they enjoy a 2-mile ETJ boundary. But when I continue to see projects or problems created like that, At Amazon, they have just recently approved about 800 homes right across the road from that. It's only going to further exacerbate the traffic station issues that we have out there in that particular area. If the planning is not what it needs to be in these ETJs, then maybe we need to look at revising these ETJs and giving the county more influence in these areas to ensure that we don't create these problems or we address these problems before they become safety hazards.
Good point.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions, comments? I will say one organization, maybe I missed you mentioning Campo, but I know they did the Southeast Area Study that's a part of this as well. And then the other piece of the puzzle is the ordinances with, we can get into street sections and roadway sections that can help, some of the things that you're talking about, whether it's extra shoulder, extra width for a lane or whatever that may be. There's some opportunities there. So there's a lot of moving pieces in here. We need to get corralled to make sure we get the best product we can for the safety of our residents.
Yes, sir. CTP is very much an exercise in corralling a lot of data, a lot of players, a lot of plans, and making sure it all consistent and works well together. And we're going to keep working on that, like I said, through the end of the year, and hopefully have you a great plan when we get done.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question.
Yes,
Along this same line of conversation, by the sheer nature of the process, the different municipalities are going to have their own set of planning rules and jurisdictions. How do you try to pull that? I mean, it was great to see that you're discussing it with them, you're meeting with them, you're including them. But at the end of the day, the way the process works is they have their own jurisdiction over their planning, just like the Amazon situation you were referring to there. How do you address that? Because if you do something in Clayton, it may be different than it is in Benson or Smithfield, and I think we see that pretty broadly in current situations now, not with just roads, but a lot of things.
It's definitely an exercise in understanding where they're going. Again, most of them have some element of a transportation plan, and understanding specifically is what's in that, but also very much understanding what's happening there from a growth standpoint. Obviously, growth in the municipalities, and again, the recent our county comprehensive land use plan looks to push a lot of that density to the municipalities. So understanding from our standpoint where the municipalities are and where they're going from a growth, where it's going to happen, what the densities are, absolutely affects traffic volumes on county roads, right? So again, we do spend a lot of time with them understanding what that looks like. And again, some of the tools like the regional travel demand model are tremendously helpful for us. And diving into that model to understand what those future forecasts are and what those assumptions are from population, and making adjustments on our end where maybe the travel demand model is overestimating growth or in most cases underestimating growth. So we go in and tweak those things. So there's a lot of little things that we do to, again, with the primary goal to be understand what's happening and where they're going, make sure we're accounting for that on the county side.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
When I look at the map you had there, most of your planning is in the highly populated areas, and I understand that. I get that. But I also see two Johnston counties up there, because when you look east of I-95, I don't see a lot of those red marks. I don't see a lot of planning. Those are our residents. Those are our citizens, too. They pay taxes just like everybody else. Granted, when you have lesser populations, you have less traffic on roads. I understand that. I understand in that area there's a lot of geological impediments to development, building roads and such, but we do need to always, and I'm sure those people would like to see us keep them in mind when we're planning, and maybe at some point in time, maybe get one main thoroughfare to get in and out of there that's really good for them, but we seem to forget that we call it a low wealth district, but they're still our citizens.
Your point is very, very well made, and we have spent a lot of time looking in that part of the county, and part of that is, again, me going back to leaving this survey open and publicizing a little more. If you truly look from a growth standpoint, the further south and east you get, there is less growth, which naturally means less growth in traffic. So again, while there may be a two-lane road there now, and it may be sufficient as a two-lane road in the future, that doesn't mean it's the same two-lane road. Again, there may be some intersection improvements from a safety standpoint, There may be some widening, as we talked about, from a farm equipment standpoint. So I can assure you, we're definitely planning for the whole county. And that is one of those areas I want to continue and specifically to focus on with this more public engagement, because I feel like there's a little bit more work we've got to do there. I feel like there's a little bit more work we've got to do in the 70 corridor. There's a lot of growth happening there, and there's a couple areas where I think there's, the data is not necessarily everything. There's a lot of art in future planning. So there's a couple areas in the county, like I just mentioned, where I think there's some things maybe we're missing, and we need a little bit more, that being one of them. So we're hopeful for the additional survey, through the additional round or the next round of public engagement. We're going to get a little bit more participation there to make sure that we're getting all those key areas. So point's well made.
I understand you're going to let, DOT's going to be letting the Princeton bypass improvements in the near future, but that near future's been going on for 5 years. But anyway, they're going to soon finish Wilson Mills. That'll get us up to the New River.
Yes, sir.
If the Princeton's done, it'll get us to Hope Pond. There's one little segment in there, and they tell me it's on the 30-year plan. I mean, it's part of it.
Things are getting pushed further and further out, and we're playing catch-up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You look at the situation coming down 70 business through Clayton right now. I mean, you're going to hit 3 and 4 cycle delays just to get through there during rush hour, and even in the middle of the day, it's difficult. But it's pushing that traffic off onto these side roads or farm-to-market roads and clogging them up. That needs to be taken into consideration as we look at development going forward. We're creating conditions here that are hazardous. And DOT plays a role in this. They just recently said they're going to rework the Shotwell Road intersection there on Highway 70, and that's going to be a major disruption. But I wonder how much they took into consideration when they shut down 210 out here at the Middle Creek Bridge. They've got all that traffic now being routed down 1010 onto Crantock Road, which has got a major subdivision going in. Already got a couple subdivisions out there that on blind curves, and it's a very narrow roadway. I came that way this morning and got behind an 18-wheel dump truck out there trying to navigate that road, and traffic volume has gone up tremendously. I mean, that's a situation to me that I think that our transportation plan here in the county with DOT should have worked with us. They're eventually going 4-lane 210. But why don't they go ahead and put a 4-lane bridge in now, as opposed to just building a 2-lane bridge and shutting that creek crossing down for 13 months?
And that's where the comprehensive transportation plan in the future helps, is if we've got indicated in the plan that, all right, 30 years, this needs to be a 4-lane road. It helps inform those other projects planning processes to do exactly what you said. Let's go ahead and put a 4-lane in now because we know we're going to need it. To your point, too, about sort of congestion pushing traffic on the other roads, that absolutely happens. And this planning process is very iterative in that you may fix congestion in one location or create congestion in one location that then pushes off on the other side roads. Well, you fix that, well, maybe it helps these other situations, and vice versa. Congestion happens on 70, it pushes traffic on the side roads. So, we go round and round with these things, if you will, on what are the different iterations and how do they change travel patterns, again, to hopefully end up with something that's, that works long-term for everybody.
Well, I think you've made a very good point. You've got information out there so that you don't necessarily go add extra lanes, but you can add features that makes the lane much safer, such wider shoulders.
Yes, sir.
And you anticipate that and go ahead and make plans to get it done before it actually becomes a big issue.
Well, that can also happen with NCDOT's resurfacing process, right? These roads are going to be resurfaced at some point. That's the time when you can go in and cut, 2-foot shoulders in. So again, these aren't all major, reconstruction, major widening projects in this CTP, particularly in the eastern part of the county. Some of them are just that, grading out a little bit more shoulders, getting a little bit more asphalt out there. That can make a heck of a lot of difference. I mean, I live on a 18-foot wide rural roadway. We don't build 18-foot wide roads in subdivisions. They're 20-foot wide, right? So, there's a lot of roads like that just a little bit more pavement goes a long way.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to clarify one thing. I know Mr. Letchworth referred to county roads, meaning rural roads, non-town, but the county, for the sake of our newer residents here, the county has no roads. They're state roads.
That is
They're all
correct.
state
Good
roads.
point.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I think, to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about, as we get the comprehensive transportation plan put together, that prepares us for whether it's in Campo or the Upper Coastal Plain to get the projects in line, so that when they come up, we already have plans for what we want there, rather than the plans being, in this case, 13 years old, and
Yeah.
there's nothing there. So we'll
Being
I think that will
dictated by
help.
DOT without a full benefit of what the ramifications are.
And to be fair to the DOT, we did have a meeting on the 210 bridge and went around a little bit on that, but I think they understood there was going to be issues, but building wider roads early on is not what they're in the business of doing. There needs to be a demonstrated need, because I was with you. I was like, clearly this thing needs to be wider. Can you do it? And they said, well, the numbers don't say that now. So it's.
Yeah, but by the
it's
same
written-
token, I hear these development approvals come in, and I hear the planning department say that, well, there is no recent traffic study for this particular road, so we don't really have those numbers to factor into our approval process. Well, if DOT doesn't have updated traffic figures, then it brings our whole planning process into question.
I think that's probably a bigger discussion than this board that we're going to resolve. But
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
could I say a few words?
Sure.
I think there's a lot of boogie men that we talk about when we talk about roads and don't look at it from a global perspective. The first problem with roads is that in North Carolina, we pay for roads with a gas tax. The gas tax is going down. So our funding to build roads is going down. And until we come up with a comprehensive way to pay for the roads, whether it be toll roads, whether it be miles driven, or whatever it's going to be, because until we get funds, we can't do what we need to do to build the roads. So funding is one problem. The second problem is we sit here as commissioners and give incentives for businesses to come to Johnston County. When those businesses come, we're promoting more traffic to be on our roads because of the businesses that we try to attract to come to Johnston County. And if we're going to continue to do that, we can't say, well, we want more jobs and we want more businesses, but then talk about, well, we got too many cars on the road, because the businesses cause problems. Because when you have businesses, you get rooftops, you get shops, you get places where people go to buy the goods and services they need. So it's all one global situation. So just when we're talking about roads, I hope we don't just look at one thing. I hope we look at all those things, because they're all interrelated. And if you have a hard time with roads in Raleigh, which was ranked the #1 place in America for kids to come get a job after college last week, go to Atlanta, and you'd be happy to come back to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
All right, anything, I will have one suggestion. You mentioned JCC, but with Johnston County Public Schools and the charter schools going back in, it sure is a prime opportunity to make sure they're aware of the survey that's out there, so we can get some input from
Yes, sir. Good suggestion.
all those
Thank you.
40-something thousand kids, families. So, okay. Anything else?
Good.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Letchworth.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
You won't want to come back anytime soon, will you?
So we do that. We continue on with our infrastructure portion of the meeting, and we will move from transportation to utilities. And we have Chandra Farmer here, our utilities director, to present this and the next 5 items after
Yes,
this, so
good morning.
welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. The 6 items that are before you today from Public Utilities are all projects we propose to include in our 2024 round of revenue bond funding. These revenue bonds are proposed, the approval for these is anticipated actually tomorrow. It goes before the LGC tomorrow.
Chandra?
Yes, sir.
You want to talk about all of them, or do you want a motion to approve all of them?
That's
Don't we have to sit as a board in some
Yeah, on the
cases?
last
one of them the board does need to sit as the Little River Water District Board, but the first 5 are all part of the board.
Yeah, on the first 5, I make a motion to approve the project budget.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Maybe your time will be a lot shorter than we thought.
Oh,
I have a discussion.
Any other discussion?
I have a question. These are revenue bonds, and it's paid for by the user fees to retire that debt. These projects, as well as quite a few others in the future, are going to be financed in the same manner. Do you anticipate there's going to be fee increases to address this particular debt?
So our rate projections that we have recently completed and we continue to update routinely as our capital improvements plan changes does anticipate rate increases over the next several years. We've been averaging around 6% rate increases for our retail and bulk customers, and we anticipate that will certainly continue to be the case in these near-term years. Now, updated financial modeling that we will be doing later on this year with our new capital improvements plan that was adopted in 2024 will look further out on what we anticipate in future years.
Good. I'm glad to hear you say disclose that information, because I've had citizens come to me and say, we're concerned about, is our water and sewer going to get to the point that we can no longer afford it like everything else? Inflation at the grocery store is killing people right now, inflation at the pump. And I say, well, if water and sewer gets to the point I can't afford it anymore, can I go back on my well? Well, no, you're not going to be allowed to. But I think if you got rate projections going forward, that's information the public needs to be aware of so they can plan accordingly for that type of financial impact of their budgets.
Definitely, that is important information for us to share with the public, and hopefully by the fall, later this fall, early into the winter, we should be able to have those updated, like I said, with our new capital improvements plan. But it's also important to note that a big portion of the rate increases, it's not just for future projects and capital project planning. It is for our operation and maintenance costs, just like you referenced. Everything continues to increase. Our costs for fuels, our costs for chemicals, our labor costs, everything continues to increase, so that has to be factored into those rates as well. And I will also mention, which y'all have heard me say this before, our system development fees for new development is intended to allow growth, pay for growth to the extent it possibly can. We will continue to be evaluating those calculations as well. And the capital improvements plan really influences those system development fees. So for new construction, so they're paying the appropriate fee to buy the capacity that they're going to need for us to be able to serve them.
Well, it's intended for growth to pay for growth. Does it cover the entire cost?
Well, we try to ensure it does that to the extent possible, but certainly it can spill over into the rates. But that's our goal, is to put that there, and that's why those system development fees actually will increase September 1 of this year, based on the budget the board adopted this year.
Right. I understand
we anticipate those to continue to rise.
A dictated formula on a statute for calculating
That's
that.
right.
It's based on the engineering calculation. But correct me if I'm wrong, that's strictly for capacity in the system. It's not paying for distribution or operational maintenance costs of the utility system.
It does not pay for O&M costs. It does pay for distribution system capacity and treatment capacity. So, larger lines, treatment expansions, additional capacity purchases, we can use system development fees for those. But as far as rehabilitating the system, if we have to go in and replace a line, or any kind of normal O&M, it does not pay for those. Yes, you're correct.
But as we expand our system, which we obviously are having to do because there's demand out here, growth demand for that, then your O&M costs are going to go up. As the system ages, it's going to demand more and more, and that's going to impact our fee schedule.
That's correct.
In terms of these rate increases, do your projections take in consideration not only the debt service, but also the increased demand on those
Yes.
O&M costs?
Yes,
Okay.
our rate modeling includes all of that.
All right, I look forward to seeing those figures when they're available.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There should be some, as you mentioned, Ms. Farmer, the when we approved the budget, there were some rates in there, and I know the projections are maybe in earlier months than that, but that's at least once a year, and I know we get updated on it.
And, yeah, and the
twice
last
a
time
year.
we did it, it was a 5-year projection. It was for the next 5 fiscal years, and we're getting into, because we adopted that new CIP, we'll be updating it again for the next 5 fiscal years, so that's great. I will note, we need to make sure the first 2 projects that we have on the agenda today, those first 2 items, they also include awarding construction contracts, not just budget adoption.
You know, one comment too, our first, if I remember correctly, the bid for the original 4 million gallons out there was like $89 million. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, for what
The
project?
first, the construction that just completed that we put online,
Yes. So
about
the-
89 million was the bid.
If you
Final.
include the biosolids treatment and the effluent main that had to be installed, it's about 130 million.
So now
For
we're
that
getting 4 million gallons again, so a lot of the work that you said you'd added in there that would make this next phase like just adding a train.
That's right.
It's
Everything-
showing up in a substantial savings source.
Everything does not have to be replicated. Some of the initial construction included it for future flows. So
Right.
that the big portion does not have to be replicated.
Chandra's a motion, do everything you need it to do.
If, I'm sorry, can you repeat the motion?
It's just
If it's worded.
approving,
Capital project ordinance and award contract.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
Yes, sir.
so we got that. Yeah, the only one that leaves is when we're Little River Water District,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
I have one question on the nitrogen credits. We're paying for increments on that, and basically, where do we stand in terms of how many increments we have bought out of this most recent allocation and how much more remain?
I think we have purchased approximately a third to a half of that has been released. The remainder will continue to be released per the contract as it's available. And it's not a simple process with the state, unfortunately. When the bank releases it per our contract, we still have to go back to the state and have our NPDES discharge permit updated. It has to go back out to a public notice.
Right.
Has to be renoticed every time we add that additional nitrogen to our contract, or to our permit.
All right, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second on items 6 through 10 to approve the contract awards and budget amendments and all the other stuff necessary in there. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, all that is done, and now let's flip to item 11.
Chairman, I move we sit as the Little River Water District Board.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? All right, we are officially sitting as the Little River Water District Board. So, Ms. Barber?
We are requesting the board adopt a budget for our transmission upgrades for the Wilson water purchase that we are anticipating. Again, this is part of the 2024 revenue bonds. The project will be bid at a future date, but this is to adopt the budget contingent upon LGC approval of the revenue bond sales.
All right, any questions? No. All right. Anyone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the project budget and adopt the capital project ordinance.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Got one quick
All right.
question, Mr. Chairman. Where's this, the 5,700 linear feet, where's that going to be?
Mostly along Highway 42 from the Wilson County line into Johnston County.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I have a question on the amount of water that we're purchasing. Is that 0.4999 million gallons per day? Does that include what we're already purchasing, or is that additional?
We already have 1.5 million gallons a day from Wilson. This will be an additional 0.499.
All right, does that take us up to a statutory limit in terms of interbasin transfer?
That's correct. We are just below that 2 million gallons a day that requires interbasin transfer,
Okay.
additional documentation.
And this is a sub-basin of the Neuse, or?
That's correct. It's
Okay.
a sub-basin.
All right, so that limitation applies not only to interbasins, but sub-basins as well?
For some of the sub-basins, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
All right, any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we adjourn the Little River Water District Board and resume regular session as Johnston County Board of Commissioners.
All right, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, we are back as the Johnston County Board of Commissioners. And the next item up is appointments. And each of you should have a ballot, or 2 ballots at your seat. And these are for boards where we have more applicants than we have vacancies. They are, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board has 1 position, and there are 2 applicants there. And the Library Board of Trustees has 1 position with 3 applicants. So if you would turn your ballots in to our deputy clerk, she will tally those, and we will make the announcement on the appointments at the start of this evening's meeting. And let's see, that brings us to delinquent tax collection report. I think it's the first time we've had anybody scoot up to the, it's like that coffee place in Clayton, you just scoot up to
You
the
know what, and I'm thankful
drive-thru.
I can, so anyway.
He's a smooth operator.
Scooters, literally.
I know,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say it out loud.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I've been called the scooter lady a lot lately, so anyway, it's all good. I'm glad we could all laugh.
We'll get you some bling to go on there
Oh,
or
thank
something,
you,
a little bell.
thank you. The county manager's been trying to promote to get a motor to go with us anyway, there's that, you know. But anyway, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Before you have several things from my office. One is the June collections report, and that leads into the fact that that is the last month for the fiscal year for 2023, or 2023-24. And that leads into the 23 annual tax settlement. The document before you shows the result of the 4-cent decrease that y'all passed in June of 23 on the property tax rate. The resulting 23 county levy was $169,480,266.74. And on 6/30, all of that had been either paid or collected in some manner, with the exception of $147,092.63. What that ends up being is a 99.91% collection rate, which is the second highest in Johnston County history. That was only achieved by property owners here in Johnston County taking their tax obligations seriously and paying their portion, and then the hard work of the staff who focused on collecting the balance. At this time, I just ask that you accept the 23 annual tax settlement and then charge me with the collecting the 2024 property taxes for Johnston County.
You want to make that motion?
I will.
I'll make it.
All right.
So I move that we authorize Ms. Andrews to collect the $147,000. That's what you need, right?
Well, that is what's left of the 23, but
Okay.
so that's the whole settlement piece, but also the collection of the 24. So that's two
All right.
different things.
Add the 2024 taxes in there too.
Second.
Delinquents.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the tax settlement for 2023 and adopt the order to collect taxes for 2024. Any other discussion?
I'll just say they've done an outstanding job,
Amen.
obviously.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you. I want to add one thing.
All right.
That being said, 2024 bills mailed last week.
Yeah.
And they were in mailboxes this weekend.
I got mine Saturday.
And let me tell you, my staff knows it. The phones are ringing and the emails are flying, and we're back at it. So all that to say, I want to use this opportunity because we are preparing for the 2025 revow to show the differences in the two. The bill that just came out is not based on the 2025 values because we don't know what those are yet. We are still working on that. And they are not based on the 2025 rate. So the bill that just came is 2024, the reduced rate for the property taxes for the county and also the 24 rate. We will, at the end of this year or the very first of next year, we'll be sending out the 2025 values for what will be the result of revow, and y'all will hear a lot more about that over the months to come. But we will do that, and I'm trying to make sure that property owners understand that process. We will send out those notices then. They will have time for them to be heard by our office as to whether or not they believe it's incorrect or if maybe we missed something or whatever, because it is mass appraisal. And then after that point, then this board will also set what the 25 rate will be. But again, all that to say, two different things. The bill that just came has nothing to do with revow. I'll be glad to clarify any of that if any of y'all would like.
This is an ongoing process. I get notices from time to time that this particular tract of land that I own has been revalued, and it's not in a reval time, but it's something has happened to it,
Right.
you know. So that's an ongoing process.
Well,
right?
so anytime there's an improvement in property, so vacant land, okay, it is vacant land. But anytime you do something to a piece of property, or if it's an existing home or existing commercial property or something like that, any changes to it that we get notified of, that does change the value of it, okay? So we have to value every year property as it was of January 1st of a particular year. The bills, if any changes were made last year, then as of January 1st, that's what the new bill is, okay? But 2025 reval, when we talk about reval, that is a mass appraisal that we are required by law to do at least every 8 years. It has been 6 years since the last one with this county, and that is what we are diligent working on right now, because that'll be everybody in the county will be able to see what we believe the market says their property is worth at that time, and that'll be as of January 1st of '25. But any changes that have received between reval years, that's because there have been changes to the property itself.
And this bill did include the new fire service tax rate in it.
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. Yes, it did.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have manager reports and comments. All right, I'll turn over to the board for their reports and comments. Mr. Braswell?
I got nothing.
Okay. Mr. Smith? Vice Chairman Harris?
No, sir, not at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Godwin?
No, I don't have anything.
Whoa.
Well, we reserve the right to come back to you. How about that? Yeah, yeah.
Thrown
It's a
off.
new day.
I don't know what they're talking about, Commissioner Godwin. Commissioner Stovall?
I think I've said enough today. I'm good.
Indeed.
Good.
All right, we'll go back one lane.
Recently, I talked to a lady, a very nice lady who was representing the Arts Council, and I've had a lot of feedback from them and other people saying that they were glad we supported the arts. And she wanted to meet with me today, and she didn't show up. So I hope this is a public reminder that call me, and I'll be glad. I was here to meet with her, but she didn't show up.
All right. And I will just say that this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Conference, and I think the majority of us will be attending, barring any changes due to the weather. I know we got an email this morning that right now it's still on, so we'll see how that goes. I will say Commissioner Harris and I are speaking on our fire service district to the group. There are evidently enough folks who are interested in hearing what we're doing to do that. So right now that's still on for Friday morning. And that's really all I have. We do have a need for a closed session. I do not expect there will be any action taken when we come out of that closed session.
And I do plan to have breakfast with our young 4-H representative Saturday.
That's always, that is always a great time.
You ready, Mr. Chairman?
I am.
Okay, I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privileges pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3 and an economical development matter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. All right, we will go into closed session after a minute.